So, good morning once again. I am here today to continue the report or the discussion of Miss Mandayonan, which is how holding the puppet, how to hold properly the puppet. Right now, I am, first of all, I would like to introduce myself. I am Genevieve Daplin, and I will be discussing the the five following topics. First, we have some basic actions. When we use a puppet, we have the gestures, the body language, which means how how a puppet means to us, the audience. And first we have moving the puppet's head up and down means yes. It was like in having a nod or the puppet nods, it means yes. And shaking it from side to side means no. And when the puppet's hands point to itself, it means me or mine. And the fourth, moving one of its hands toward its body means come there. Waving its hand may mean either hello or goodbye. The 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 puppeteer will give a signal if the puppet means hello or goodbye. It depends on the scenario. And there are some actions that will we that um it is not uh, mentioned here. It- there are some actions it's like as the walking, the running, and jumping. These are suggested by the way you move the puppet across the stage. Try to not to lift up in the air. If you will lift up the puppet in the air, you will soon get the knock of holding it down so that it seems to be all doing the moving. The puppet should not make extra movements if the scenery is requires that the puppet should not make extra actions or the genre is not an action. And when two-person puppeteering together, the chances are they will each be holding a puppet. This is more difficult than playing alone, but it is the in contrast, it is also more fun rather than playing alone. The puppeteers have to watch out the puppets don't bump into each other. Also, when one puppet is speaking, the other one should remember to listen. It's a conversation type of the play of puppet, and vice versa. Occasionally, in a puppet play, there will be a scene for three puppets. This takes some doing for the people who will have to work together backstage. And or one person will have to handle two puppets. That's hard. A making a three puppet play in a stage, in a puppet stage. It is a good idea that at first to use the stories that have no more than two characters on stage one at a time. And in addition, how are these puppets moving? The puppeteers uses movements of their hands, arms, or control devices such as rods or strings to move the body, head, head limbs, and in some cases, the mouth and eyes of the puppet. It is occasionally this kind of movement were done in a string puppet. When you make a puppet talk, it is called a ventriloquish or ventriloquy. The puppet play is a type of puppet play which is the ventriloquish puppet. It is an act of stagecraft in which a person or the ventriloquist creates the illusion that their voice is coming from elsewhere, usually puppeteered prop known as a dummy. It is called ventriloquist puppet, as I have said earlier. On the contrary, shadow puppets had only the narrator who talks, so meaning puppet talk is only made for ventriloquist puppets and the other puppet, except for the shadow puppet. The next one we have the puppet stage. It is not necessary to have a stage, for puppets can act anywhere, but all you need is a smooth surface about 3 feet long and a table, that is a table or a bench. A box will do. That is, if you want a simple puppet play, you could make use of the table, a bench, or a box. And in a setting with windows opening on a porch, if you want a door or a window on your puppet stage, you can make use of the windows opening in a porch. One group of children use the window sill for the stage. Another idea for a stage is a cardboard or wooden box with front and back cut off and curtain across the back. Making such as a stage can take some work, obviously, but as well as requiring a place to yes, as well as requiring a place to store it when not in use. But a stage with a lamp placed in front of the box to light, or if you have the lighting in the puppet play, it adds a professional touch. The third one, we have to discuss the scenery. You do not need scenery any more than you need a stage, but sometimes you may want it. And if you do, make it of a cardboard or a stiff paper and be sure to fasten it securely so that it won't fall down. The doll furniture can be used if it is the right size, but a simple background is usually all the puppeteers wanted. You don't even need that if the puppets tell the audience where the stories take place. That's how some puppeteers use when they don't want having a scenery. They usually de- dictate dictate. They usually um, tell the audience how the story takes place and where the story takes place. The next one here we have the stories of the puppet plays. It is a good idea that work without scripts because you have your hands full just moving the puppets. If you know the story you are presenting very well, you can make up the dialogue as you go along, just as you do in a creative drama. Besides, it will sound more natural if you do have the having not a script in having stories in a puppet plays. Although many stories that are good for creative playing, also good for puppets, but not all work well. One thing that must be kept in mind in the puppet stage that there is a little room backstage. It means you have a little or no preparation when having a puppet play. Therefore, stick stories in which no more than two, but some stories will lend themselves to puppet theater better than others. The next one, the last one, we have the puppet as teaching aids. Puppet also make excellent teaching aids because of their power to hold and sustain the attention of a class. That's the advantage and the difference of having a puppet play in a as a teaching aid and with without and with compared to having not. The degree of sophistication of puppets that students create depends on the age and previous experience of the students. Occasionally and um, sometimes, how oftentimes puppet play were were done in a preschool sometimes because they wanted a student, the learners to improve their attention span and to sustain it in the class. Unlike some circular materials, puppets are not limited to any one area of the study. That's a one of the advantage. They can be used in any subject, ranging from the language arts to science and math. They can be combined with other teaching materials and used alone. Moreover, puppet cost little nothing to compare to other techniques, and as already been stated, their value lies in the mobility, not in the beauty or the complicated construction of the puppet. Puppets made by the teachers and children are usually more satisfactory rather than the commercial puppets. If puppets are purchased, however, there are many in the market, they should be selected of the durability and avoid the puppets with non-washable or perishable materials as a pup as you can use in as teaching aids. Another consideration and an important one is the child's perception of his or work of her work, which is the puppet. It is not about the puppet looks like, but rather how the child feels about the puppet. For instance, it is not important that a rabbit puppet looks like a real rabbit, because the most important in this matter is that what should a child needs only is to believe on the rabbit, to believe in the puppet. In both creative drama and puppetry, extemporaneous speaking is involved. Use of the puppet has the added advantage, however, of shielding the speaker who may be shy or weak in verbal skills, thus enabling them to communicate through the puppet. Probably the most extensive use made of puppets as a teaching tool in the area of language and arts. According to John Warren Stewig, he said that children generate more verbal language during a dramatic play than any other situation. That is a perspective of John Warren Stewig, that that he believed that a children would more engage and will be more engaging in a dramatic play or a role playing in using a puppet than any other situation. A skillful teacher makes use of opportunity afforded by the communication to open up new areas of learning and tune into students' thinking. Telling stories with puppets not only have a valuable activity in all levels. The move from storytelling to story dramatization is a natural next step. The involving of the dialogue, the character study, the play structure, and a growth in language competency is a advantage in using a puppet as teaching aids. And the use of puppet in teaching of poetry has also proved successful in promoting the appreciation of writing of this form of literature. In addition, puppets can enhance learning because they can also boost the students' creativity, the confidence, and the subject knowledge as well as it improves students' concentration, motivation, observational skills, and problem solving activities. That is the importance and the advantage of using a puppet as the teaching aids. If you will have another any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And thank you once again. Um, Ms. Lazaga will continue the report. Thank you once again and good morning.